Good evening, everyone. I'm Karen Glose. I am the director for the Center for Career Development and Alumni Engagement. And I want to welcome you to the 2022 Communications Studies Alumni Career Panel. Thank you all for being here. I'll take a moment to just briefly introduce our panelists, and then Professors Tim Mulchaney and Donna Acera will moderate the panel. So with us this evening, we have Garrett Allred, class of 2017, Tessa Baki, class of 2017, Shelby Baylor, who is an NCC who will be graduating from NCC in May, Will Carreri, class of 18, Beth Degenbach, class of 2012, Davin Jurgensen, class of 2012, and rounding it out, Jamie Leisure, class of 2013. And I'll turn it over to you, Tim and Donna.
Thank you, Karen. What do you think, Don? We have a great panel tonight, don't we?
We do, and I can't tell you how I read over what the panelists are doing now, but it's so impressive that I can't wait for them to tell their story in their own words and talk about how this comm studies degree helped them to get to where they are, and also help them to decide what was the next step once they walked down the aisle and got their diploma from NCC.
Yep, and there are a lot of great options for next steps in the state of Pennsylvania and beyond, and we have a wide range of transfer institutions represented amongst our panelists tonight as well. So what do you think? Should we get started and let the panelists do the talking? Sounds good to me. So we'll start with a simple question, and I'll ask Davin first. How did NCC and your time at NCC help you prepare for the career that you find yourself in today?
Right. So hi, everyone. I'm Davin. NCC helped me in many ways. The first way is that I didn't know what I wanted to do straight out of high school, so NAC allowed me to kind of explore all of my options. Without paying a ton of money in tuition, I was able to, spend a reasonable amount and still kind of explore and get my general studies courses out of the way. So when I did transfer, I could kind of jump right into what I wanted to do. And that was something that I really liked. And how detailed are we going in these questions? Because I could go on
as much as you'd like to share. Because for the folks who are here who are either current comm studies majors or considering it, I think they want to hear straight from you. So whatever you feel comfortable sharing with those in attendance works for us.
So just going back to experiencing different classes, NAC just helped me develop my interest. I mean, I took a bunch of philosophy courses. I remember that. And I remember going, I could totally do something with philosophy. And I was like, well, I don't want to teach. So, these are great, but what am I going to do? And then my advisor, and I'm really not sure if it was you, Professor Acera. I think it maybe was you.
I think it was me.
Okay. I had all these classes that I was taking, and most of them were kind of communications classes for my extracurriculars. And she was like, why don't you just graduate communication studies degree instead of general studies? So this way you have a degree kind of going in. And it was probably the best decision I made. So thank you. Because I really, really enjoyed my classes. And then it led me kind of down my path to what I'm doing now. So I'll stop there for that question.
Excellent. Well, this is one of the things we tell students who inquire about the communication studies major all the time. It provides you foundational skills in many aspects of communication, and it helps you explore who you are and what you really want to do. And I think that's the reason why we have so many successful grads from our program going on, excelling at a college or university, and then building very satisfying careers for themselves. So thank you for sharing that, Davin. Let's move over and we'll ask Will a question. Will, I see you on screen. How are you doing this evening?
I'm well. How are you?
Very well, very well. Very glad to be here. What are some of the biggest challenges you've faced along the way in your career, and how has your foundation communications helped you manage and overcome them?
So Challenges have repeatedly seemed to follow me quite a bit, especially as I left high school and moved into a very far from communications field. I originally went to school for communication, or not communication, music therapy. And I quickly learned that that wasn't for me. And I found myself nearing the end of my first semester at NCC, not knowing what I wanted to do or where I was going to go. So I found kind of my small group of professors I was very close with who kind of led me in a different direction of communications. And even with that, I found challenges. So not many people on this call know me, but I'm very vocal about being a member of the autistic community and having my own challenges there with communicating in general. And so going into communications was very daunting. But along the way, I kind of, I believe it was Donna who mentioned just next steps. And so as I continued through my time at NCC, just finding those next steps were very closely next to me. And so it made it much easier to move on to the next challenge and achieve what I want to achieve and then continue on the path.
That's great. That's very good to hear. And it's important to recognize that no matter who we are and what we do and where we're going to face challenges, and having these foundational skills, once again, is one of the keys to being able to manage them in an effective, productive way. Thank you for sharing that, Will.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett, where are you? I'm looking on my screen. There you are. How you doing tonight, Garrett?
I'm doing well. How's it going?
Very good. You're working in a very interesting field, and I was wondering if you could tell us what your field is specifically, and what are some of the most rewarding aspects of the work that you do, and how does communication play into all of it?
Absolutely. So first off, I'd like to say it's a pleasure to be here. I work in entertainment, more specifically television. Some of you may be familiar with the show that I'm currently working on. It's called The Maury Show. It's been around for quite a long time. It started before I was even born. The show and myself are actually about the same age. And I don't know if people have been following any entertainment news recently, but Maury just announced his retirement. We are taking original episodes up till September, and then he's done. He's going to go play a lot of golf, and we're very excited for him on that front. But one of the most rewarding facets of working in this sector of entertainment, which is daytime television, is that you deal with some very real people and very real issues. And Maury's a talk show. And so I find myself talking to people from every walk of life. And it's been invaluable just to be able to connect with people and hear them and listen to them and hear their stories on their lives, because there's so many different people out there, so many different experiences that I've been able to connect with them and learn from them, and also those that work around me. And so we do help a lot of people here at the Maury Show, and I think that has been extremely rewarding to see people who may not have known their father or their cousin or their brother, whoever. So to bring people together in those instances has really been exceptionally rewarding. And I'd say my work in the communication field at NCC and at other colleges certainly helped me prepare to get to those places that I'm at now.
Oh, that's great. It's funny, I just read this morning, I was reading through the material for tonight and saw where you worked, and I just saw a story today about Maury announcing his retirement.
We wanted to keep it under wraps for a little while longer, and sure enough, one day after we kind of announced it amongst our small group, it came out, and there's been a lot of misinformation. Some people said he got canceled. Some people, there's been so many articles that came out over the last 48 hours, but it is a true retirement. It's bittersweet, but this was his choice on his terms, and I couldn't be more proud and humbled to be putting a show of such magnitude, to rest. It's been an absolute pleasure and an absolute journey these last couple of years.
And now your journey will continue on beyond that, I'm certain.
Absolutely. There's always more to come.
That's right. That's right. The best is yet to come, as they say.
There you
Right?
go.
So
Thank you
if
for
I
sharing that.
could I just ask Garrett a question?
Sure.
So when you transferred to your 4-year school, did you specifically then go from communication studies into media studies?
I did not. I did add on some minor electives in cinema, media, television production, but I stayed communication strictly all the way throughout, just because I feel like I was in the same boat as a lot of people, which was I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do when I left school, but I knew that the communication field was going to keep me open to a lot of doors and opportunities as long as I kept myself open to them. And so when I left school, it gave me a great chance to do whatever I liked. And so I'm proud that I stayed on the communication path. And when you're still in school, you can add on like certain electives and whatnot for the things that you want to focus on later. But communication gives you the ability to try different things out, which was awesome.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to Tessa now. How you doing, Tessa?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good and very happy to be here. So you have a unique background, so I'm going to ask you a unique question. In general, how would you describe the culture of the industry and the environment that you work in, and how your skills in communication have helped you manage and navigate your way in building your career in that culture?
Sure. So I work at Elizabeth Arden, which is a beauty and cosmetic company owned by Revlon. And I work in their public relations influencer department, which is very specific and not at all what I thought I was going to be doing when I went to NAC. But it is PR, especially here in New York, is very fast paced. It's very difficult at some times, but also very rewarding. So my experience at NAC, I majored in communications because I had no idea what I wanted to do, like I'm sure most of us here. And I knew that I was better with people than I was with numbers, which is not why I went to business. But I knew in communications you could do loads of things. So I started doing that and just realized that I did love just talking and being around people.
Mhm.
And I interned and worked part-time. I was also going to NAC full-time. So it really taught me how to multitask, how my work ethic really got me going there too as well. And now working in PR, like I said, it's very difficult at times and it's very fast paced and you have to be on the ball all the time. So I really think that my work at NAC and, how I kind of started my education there really helped me for where I am now.
Excellent. We always love to hear when people say, hey, the basics and the foundation that I built at NAC really helped me along the way. And for the folks who are attending who are not members of our panel, you'll notice that no two of our panelists really are in the same field or in the same industry, and they're doing different types of jobs. And that's the exact type of flexibility that communication education delivers to you, not just in career, but where you go to take the next steps after NCC. It's really all up to you. Donna, would you like to ask a few questions?
I sure would. I am very curious about what Beth is doing. So tell the audience what you're doing right now, but also, and I think that all the panelists should just put this question on the back burner because I'd like to know if is there a class that should have been that you say would be valuable in your first 2 years that we don't yet offer. Okay, so Beth, tell us about a little bit about your trajectory from NCC to where you are now.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I have a really hard job right now. I have to spend all my time in a bar because I work for Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser. So I work with beer. So I started off at NAC. I did know I wanted to go into communication. I thought I would be the next Don Draper. I met Professor Mulchaney at a college fair. It was like at NAC, and I was talking to different people, and my mom did know Professor Mulchaney, and she introduced us. And as soon as I met him, I knew he was one of our people, the communication people. he was very personable and told me, hey, you could sit in on the class. And I was very excited about that. So I knew I wanted to go into communication. I loved my time at Northampton. It was a great experience. One tip for students is to definitely take as many classes as you can at Northampton, because it's a great value. And even if you know what university you want to go on to afterwards, take a look at their course catalogs and try to take classes that match, because something I did when I went on to Westchester, some of the classes didn't transfer at first, but they told me, oh, well, if you bring in a course description and a syllabus, we can take a look and see if they'll transfer. And I did that, and then all my classes transferred. So definitely have to take advantage of that and advocate for yourself. That's some big tips for when you move on from communication, and great for any field. So I went on to Westchester University. I took communication classes. My degree was in communication, and I primarily did advertising public relations as my background. So I took an advertising class, and as soon as I took the class, I knew this is what I want to go into. I want to be in marketing and advertising. After I graduated, I worked in sales and advertising. So I sold traditional radio advertising in the Lehigh Valley, and I will admit I was not very good at it. I did get fired, and because of that, I decided to go to grad school. So I always knew I wanted to. I'll be honest with you, I didn't do very well, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to grad school, and I loved my time there as well. I'd eventually like to teach communication, so if you have any openings, let me know. And then after graduate school, I moved down to Florida. So that's where I am right now. I'm in Southwest Florida, and I work for an Anheuser-Busch distributor, and I work as the brand manager, and I worked a little bit as an account manager. So again, I was back in sales, and I did much better here. Just a different industry. It was something I was excited about, and it was just a different type of sales. So if you are in the sales field, you know, something in sales you have to realize is that you'll have a lot of no's before you get to the yes. You face a lot of rejection in any field, but especially in sales. And hey, it's okay. You just have to get back up, brush yourself off, and keep going. And eventually you'll find, here I am, I'm selling beer, and I'm doing great. So I work with a Anheuser-Busch Budweiser distributor. So we have Bud Light, Ultra, all the Anheuser-Busch products. And I work with what they call the on-premise side, the bar side. So I work with hundreds of different bars to bring in new products into the market, as well as special events. So I work with like the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Club. When we have special events in our market, I try to bring our products in, make sure our products are featured. I hire promotional people to run the tents, and just it's promotional marketing for our products in this specific market, which is Southwest Florida.
That's terrific.
Some classes. Yeah. And then to answer your question, some classes that for Northampton, did you write up organizational communication? I know interpersonal communication and small group communication were some great ones. That's something I work with every day. I work with a lot of groups of people and constantly communicating with different people, and those are some great classes to take.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Beth. I'm going to tell your mom I said hi.
And your
I
sister.
will.
And your sister, okay?
I will.
Jamie, how did winning the public speaking contest back in 2013 catapult you to the success that you now have today?
Okay, so first I did not win. I actually only got second, but in my mind,
robbed, by the way.
I won.
Yes.
The guy that beat me at the time looked very much like our president then, and I definitely lost to him. But he had a great speech. But no, so my time at NCC, so I graduated in 2013, and I studied communications, of course. And it's interesting because when I was looking at the other panelists on the schedule here for today, I realized that me and where is she, Shelby, are the only ones that I do not have a 4-year degree. So I only have my NCC degree. And I was like, wow, that's so interesting. Because when I went to NCC, a lot of people went to NCC and then went out into the workforce. And I did actually go, to another 4-year institute, but didn't complete it, of course. But it's interesting because, like you said, I did the speech contest when I was at Northampton. I had an internship in the institutional advancement office. I was on the tennis team. I did all kinds of fun things when I was at NAC. And it's funny having like an event like this, like kind of like jogs your memory, like, oh my gosh, like I did all of that. Like, how did I handle it? And I worked full time when I went to NAC. So I was like, how did I do all of that? But it's interesting because it's helped me land where I am today. So currently I am a recruiter and I work for Bowery Farming. And Bowery is new to Lehigh Valley. So Bowery Farming is an indoor vertical farming company. So we grow different types of leafy greens and herbs, and we are also now entering the fruit section as well. We just announced last week that we are growing strawberries indoors and selling them to the market. So we grow our produce indoors and then we sell it directly into our local community. And we're building a new location here, which is opening shortly here in Bethlehem. But I think for me, a big thing, just like getting out into the workforce is I'm one of those people that, especially as a recruiter, you're like the face of a company. And as a recruiter, I need to be passionate about what I'm recruiting for. So like prior to Bowery Farming, I worked for Crayola, and Crayola helps parents and educators raise creatively alive kids. And I really was passionate about that, and now at Bowery Farming, I'm really passionate about that as well. And I think NCC really helped me. I knew I wanted to do communications, but I didn't really know, I kind of wanted to be a broadcaster at one point. Then I interned, like I said, in institutional advancement, had a couple newspaper internships. Then I worked for Fox Connecticut up in, when I was in a 4-year school up in Connecticut. Then, so I had a lot of different things, but wasn't really sure. And I kind of fell into the HR side, which for me made sense because I like structure, I like rules, and HR is really much like that. And then recruiting for me kind of worked because I always say in recruiting, you have to, it's very similar to sales. You're not selling a product, you're selling a company. Like, how can I get people behind what our mission is and want them to come work for us and now, be what I call modern farmers or, work for an indoor vertical farming company. And so I think for me, especially at NCC, I had, of course, Professor Sarah Mulchaney, Del Quadro, Coberlin. I don't know if she's still there, but I had all of you, and it was great because we had so many different classes, but they were also unique with the small group and the interpersonal and speech comm, which can we just say I got really lucky. I had Donna and Sarah for speech communications, and there's a lot of professors for that, and I got very lucky first semester at NCC for that. But all of those classes, I think, really just kind of helped, filter up into what exactly I wanted to do. And it even today, I think I'm one of those people, I keep my my textbooks and I totally still have them all and will randomly reference them for what did we talk about in, interpersonal or different things like that. So it's been really helpful for me, especially, just everything that I learned at NCC and moving forward and stuff. So I don't really know if that answered your question.
Yeah, that's terrific. And I am so impressed that you still go back to those books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people. I highlight things and put notes in them. And I don't know. And obviously communication styles can change. Even when I graduated in 2013, the world is completely different now, the generation growing up. But there's certain fundamentals that are the same. So you can always go back on them and rely on those original teachings that you learned. So.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yep. You're right, Jamie. The basic ideas still hold true. It's just the context and the tools we're using that are constantly evolving, and you have to keep up. You have to keep up. Shelby, we've kept you waiting, but Shelby's one of our current students. For those who maybe joined a few minutes late, who will be graduating in May, and I was fortunate over the last 2 years. I think 2 or 3 classes you've taken with me, Shelby?
So far, 2. I'm going to fight for a third.
Okay, you might not have to fight that hard. So tell us a little bit about your journey and your experience as a current student and what your experience has been like for the last few years navigating college during the pandemic and still managing to do high quality work and stay focused on your goals. How's that work for you?
Yeah, thanks. So just to, I guess, give some backstory on where I'm currently at, and then I'll kind of lean into NCC and the impact that it's continuing to make on me. I've been very fortunate to be in what most would probably consider a unique career path or experience. Directly after high school, I did what most people or kids like to do. I left home and I wanted to attend college away from my family, so I had the chance to gain some new experiences. After leaving, at the time I was at Kutztown University, I left my first year. I had a lot of time to reflect, so I discovered that at the time studying special education was an area that I felt really passionate about, but it wasn't a cup filler for me. And for anyone that doesn't know the cup filler analogy, you should definitely look it up because it's my motto nowadays. But I decided to get into my first job so I can begin just gaining experience. And honestly, I was just hoping I was going to discover what made me happy. I found Indeed, I found a post for a newer company called Stitch Fix, and we are an e-commerce company that personally styles outfits for clients, and we ship it directly to their house. And at the age of 19, I thought working in a warehouse would be sort of strange, honestly, but I was really attracted to the company's culture. Very quickly, I realized that I love people, I love culture, and the desire to influence. So within 6 months, I was promoted into an operational leadership role, which then helped me discover my love even further for driving consistency, being a thought partner, and supporting employees and being their best selves. And in that role at the time, I was working alongside our current HR department. And that's when I began to become even more passionate to lean into the people side rather than the numbers side. So I was very fortunate. A role opened up in HR. I decided to apply. At the time, I didn't have any experience or education, but I really had the drive and the willingness to learn. So for whatever reason, they decided to hire me, and I'm still there, which I'm really fortunate for. But then that's when NCC really started coming about. I knew that I needed to get myself up to date, and I needed to really start leaning in so I can support people the way that I really genuinely wanted to. So by beginning to seek out partners, I started attending conferences and taking online trainings. But most importantly, I made the uncomfortable decision to enroll back into school. And I say uncomfortable, yet it was the best decision that I honestly could have made for myself. And during my time at NCC, I was actually promoted into an HR lead role. And I really give the kudos to communication studies for playing a really large part in my development, as I've learned to be a lot more aware, a lot more intentional, and a lot more open. When I think about the balancing act between being a full-time employee with Stitch Fix and being in school with NCC, it really just came down to, one, the willingness to learn and knowing that if I wanted to be in this field of HR, that I needed to put my big girl pants on and I needed to get myself in the correct path so I could make the biggest impact. And thankfully, communication studies has really done that and continues to do that. I think about time management, right? And when I think about the classes that I've taken, I really sit back and I think about more of the skills that I've actually developed. So thinking about time management, thinking about my work ethic, thinking about my ability to work in groups, and overall just deciding and learning the type of leader that I wanted to be. I entered HR not really knowing how I wanted to lead or how I wanted to show up, and communication studies and NCC as a whole has really helped me blossom in that area. So I think it's just having the drive, being willing to feel uncomfortable, being able to stay bold and stay vulnerable, and a mix of all of that put together has really helped me become successful at NCC and in my current field of HR. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. It does. And very well said, I might add.
Yeah, much appreciated.
You're very welcome. You're the reason, and all of the students that are here, you're the reason, the faculty, that's the reason we do what we do. So, and it's one of the things we don't frequently get is an opportunity to hear the success stories of the people who've passed through our halls, been in our classrooms, our offices, and that we've shared time with. So I want to just at this point, nothing's ending, but just want to say thank you to all the panelists for sharing everything you've shared to this point. Donna, do you have additional questions you'd like to ask our panelists, or is there anyone?
I thought maybe either John or Jen, other faculty, might have some questions, and then hopefully open it up to the other participants.
Sounds good.
Jen?
Apparently Donna thinks I have some questions. I gotta say, like, obviously, like, I gush over the students that I know, but I love coming to these because they're students that were before my time at NCC, and I'm so impressed with all of your accomplishments. I just wanted to come back to Beth for a minute because I really appreciated that you shared that, it's kind of a journey and you might get fired and some things might happen along the way. Like, it's all not cookie cutter. So, like, how did you react to that? I feel like that's something any student would want to know. And how did you recover or reframe that? Beth, I think your sound is not working at the moment, or is that on my end?
No, her sound's not working.
Oh no, Beth, I asked the wrong student a question. As a student that's going to have technical difficulties. That's okay, Beth, and we'll wait until you can get it figured out. Does anybody else want to approach that question of how they overcame any hurdles that they might have faced in the career industry related to comm?
Yeah, I guess I can kind of tackle this one.
Okay.
So what I do now is primarily freelance work. And with freelance work, while there's a lot of freedom with the clients that I can take on, a lot of the time it's very unreliable. And so sometimes you're going to have a lot of work, sometimes you're not going to have a lot of work. And so, there are times where it's good. I've been able to work with companies like Nike and Microsoft and even the White House, but there are times where I'm not doing anything. And so it's really in those moments where you're not doing anything where you kind of learn a lot about yourself. And it's very much like a humble check, and, you get a lot of reality right there. But I maybe it was Shelby who said, you just need to keep pushing forward a lot of the time. And, in those moments is really when you grow. And I think every student at community college or at your 4-year or wherever you're at in your life, you're going to have those moments. But those moments are really what make you who you are.
Good answer. I meant to ask Will that question. Beth, did you want to try again now that you're back on? I'm sorry. Oh, no.
No.
Shelby, did you have something to add? I just noticed you were unmuted.
No, I don't have anything too much to add. So nope, I'll go all out to the next question. Thank you.
John, did you want to ask a question?
I did have a question. One of the things we saw with the comm studies degree is the idea that not all of our majors who graduate with comm studies go on to comm studies. Many do, and some go on to different majors. So just wanted to kind of go around the panel. For those of you who did transfer, what major did you go into? And where did you go? So I think that would be helpful for people to hear who are majors or considering the major.
Let's start with Davin.
All right. So I went to Rowan University in South Jersey. It was formerly Glassboro State. But so I actually went for, and I got a journalism degree with a minor in advertising. When I had gone there, I remember I was initially wanted to do radio, TV, film, and because it was kind of like you could go and see all the different writing fields, like you could do creative writing, journalism, radio, TV, film. And at first I sat through like a radio, TV, film presentation and I was like, nope. And then so I was between creative writing and journalism. And at that point I was like, well, I feel like journalism is, you know, better for me, or just in my head at that time, like to get a job and to start a career. But, and then at the last minute, I added on advertising because I always like, I still have that creative in me where I like do some like graphic design and editing, and I actually do use that today. But yeah, so I went into journalism and went down that path, and it's changed quite a bit. And now I'm in public relations, so.
Gavin, can I just hop in here real quick? I don't think you told us where you work and what you are doing right now.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so yeah, went to school for journalism, but now I transitioned and I am a public relations administrator for the Northampton County District Attorney's Office. And so this is interesting because it's a new position that I found at the end of 2020. So I started last year, February of 2021. And I saw it and I was like, this is perfect, because I used to work at Channel 69 News as an assignment editor. So I would interact with people at the district attorney's office and get information. And I was like, they totally need one of these. I could be one of these. So I went, you know, here I am. And it's great because I have the creative freedom to kind of develop that position. And so I'm interacting with the community and doing community engagement events. I'm writing press releases. I'm on the opposite side of the news. But it is challenging. And I did want to bring this up because I'm no longer in a newsroom where I can bounce ideas off of everybody. I am the only creative in that office. I'm with attorneys and I'm with secretaries, and they don't know, they're not the best with design and, you know, things of that nature. So I am still to this day, you know, always on LinkedIn or looking for resources and webinars, and my other friends who I know who have gone into public relations to just kind of get some ideas and bounce off of them. So.
Great.
Thank you.
And do any of our attendees have questions for our guests? Donald.
Donald, go ahead.
Hello. Hello. How is everyone?
Good.
I have a question for Garrett, who said he worked on Maury. Yeah, I'm a returning student, and I'm interested in writing and getting into the film industry. And I have a few ideas of how I might go about that, but your experiences are kind of telling me that I'm going in kind of the right direction. Where from a second year student would you think maybe I should pursue to keep going down that path that might lead me somewhere?
Absolutely, great question. So the first thing that I would say is reach out to anyone that you know that may have anything to do with the entertainment industry or writing or things that interest you. It would surprise you to find out how many people are somehow involved or associated with things that interest you, or may know somebody who's interested or has some sort of influence in a position that you're interested in. The first thing that I did when I realized that entertainment is something that I wanted to work in, I reached out to everybody, and I was blown away with how many people knew somebody who knows somebody who I was able to talk to and reach out and see if they could refer me somewhere and whatnot. And that's the first piece of advice that I would give to anybody looking to enter this field, because I think, as you will know, nobody gets, I can't say nobody, most people won't get to where they're going without some sort of help. I certainly didn't get here without a ton of help, especially from a lot of people on this call, from my teachers, from my parents, friends. Everyone can support you in some way, and you can support a lot of people, whether you know it or not. So number one, I would say reach out, ask for help. see if anybody knows somebody who can help you. And then number two, I actually went, I would say like 4 or 5 months after college, unemployed. And my job every single day was to find a new way to reach out to people, a new way to try to find an avenue into the career that I wanted. And so if you're interested in being in a creative field, step one would be being creative about the way you get in front of people and about the way that you approach your obstacles, which at this point in your career, I would say is, finding opportunities. The more creative you are, the more persistent you are, and the more help that you seek out, the better things are going to go from you, better for you. And that's the best advice I can give somebody looking to get into this industry. Look for help and be as creative as you can. I've heard so many stories from my coworkers about how they got to this job or people that they know, and no one story is the same. And you're not going to find a single person who was like, oh, this was the first job I applied to. They came right back. Usually it's like, this was the 300th job that I applied to, or I lost count. And there's a lot of people who will have, I knew this guy who knew this person who knew this person's mom. And, we talked this way. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to get creative, because that's what's going to get you a position, and that's what's going to get you into the career and the field that you want. And I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
And if you're not looking at the chat, both Jamie and Shelby mentioned LinkedIn in the chat. I strongly encourage all of you, if you are not on LinkedIn yet, get on LinkedIn. You can come to the Career Services office. We'll help you get your profile set up the way it should look. We'll help you with that. And reach out to our panelists then to connect with our panelists. It's a great way. I found most of these panelists on LinkedIn because I'm a professional LinkedIn stalker. So it works. I firmly believe it works.
I have a question for all of our panelists. You all did a great job speaking about your time in the classroom and what you gleaned from your time in the classroom, but I'm wondering if you have any advice for our students that are still, making their way through the comm studies degree, of activities to get involved in outside the classroom. And I understand that right now the world is not the world that you were in, but what things will change. We will be able to travel again. We will be able to see each other on campus again. And I'm wondering if you have what helped to kind of fill out your resume. And speaking of resumes, you don't just need a resume today, do you? You have to, right? So I'd like you to speak to those two things. Anybody?
I can try to tackle that one. I think for me, like at NAC and just like in general, that I always tell people, because in recruiting, I look at a lot of resumes, I read cover letters a lot. I have all of those things constantly that I'm looking at. And for me, something that sticks out is, I know, like, obviously if you're going to college, you're going to college, but what other things are you participating in? Like, are you on the student senate? Are you on a sports team? Like, a lot of times people, are you part of your church? People don't want to include all those things sometimes because I think from a candidate point of view, like the old fashioned way is you don't want to tell people everything that you do in your life, but it does show that there's substance to you, that you do something, and especially at NAC or like at any like school. Yes, you can go to school, but we know that you're not going to school, 80 hours a week, you have a certain amount of classes and you have the schoolwork, but you are doing other things. So like, I know for me, when I was at NAC and, even in my professional world now, I do a lot of volunteering. And personally, that has helped me a lot, just networking around the Lehigh Valley area and just getting to know other people that I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you went to NAC, or, you, like, I met this person, and it's like, it's how you build your network out. But volunteering and just, I always say, like, opting in. so like in my current position, I'm technically like a remote employee. I'm located at the Bethlehem facility, but our corporate headquarters are in Manhattan. So like, 80% of our workforce is located there. So I'm more of like a virtual person to them. But if there's any time that I can raise my hand and I'm like, I can help with this. You need me to come to New York? I'll do that. If you need me, if there's a presentation and you need somebody to change the slides, let me do it, because that allows you to like get to know other cross-functional partners at the same time, which I think is really important. So just opting in and, doing whatever you can, even the littlest things, can really help, networking and help your career take off the ground. So
Good, and build up that resume. But beside a resume, Tessa, what else do you need to have to show?
I would say, to be honest, this kind of goes with resumes, but it's what you're doing out of it. After NAC, I transferred to Montclair State, where I got my bachelor's degree in digital communications. Montclair is right across the river from New York. It's in New Jersey, if we don't know. But my 2 semesters that I was at Montclair, I interned 6 times. And so even during the summer, every single semester, I would have an internship. And I work in fashion and beauty now, but my internships range from finance to editorial agency. So really do everything. I think Beth mentioned this earlier, like try everything, whether it's classes, whether it's internships, whatever industry you're going into, you're not going to know unless you try it. And obviously you're not going to apply to 2 jobs and get one of them. So, or even internship. So I really dedicated for myself at least an hour or 30 minutes every single day and would just apply to as many. I'm not exaggerating. I think I applied to like 200 jobs before I actually got hired, my first job out of college. And it's hard and it is going to seem very hopeless. And it's a feeling that is not good. But once you stick to it and you really push yourself, people will see it. And even like Garrett was saying, in every industry, it's so important to know people and to network. I met, for where I got my job now, I met her boss on the train into work to my internship one day. Like you never know who you're going to meet and you never know what connections it's going to have. So even out of school and out of class, just to really put yourself out there, and it's scary and daunting, but it really is going to pay off in the long run.
Great. Thank you.
Well, perhaps it's time for the final question that all our panelists will answer. This is a fun question. Imagine for a moment you can time travel, and you're going to time travel back to pay a visit to yourself in your college years. What advice would you give your college self, knowing what you know today, having experienced what you've experienced? Any of our panelists, just jump right in.
I don't mind kicking us off, even as a current student. When I reflect about my time at NCC, I think if I can go back to the beginning, I probably would have advised myself to lean in closer to the classes that probably made me uncomfortable. I remember talking to Professor Sarah and mentioning business is not my jam. Like, don't want to take a business class. And then I realized, I'm like, but wait, there's only one way I'm going to continue in my current field of HR to support the operation leaders. And it's to be able to understand from their perspective and understand what their day-to-day looks like. So I did decide to take one of the business classes, but if I could go back and, have another conversation with myself, it probably would have continued to think outside of more than just myself and to look at it from others' perspectives, and take the classes that, although make me feel uncomfortable, would allow me to later on be a stronger leader in my current field. So the biggest piece of advice I would give myself is probably that, is to be willing to feel a little bit more uncomfortable in some of the classes and not always play it safe.
Thank you, Shelby.
Yeah, of course.
I think I can jump in here. If I could go back in time, I think I would tell myself to not worry so much about what can or cannot be controlled. I think I was pretty good at working as hard as I could, but at the same time, a lot of the times I would get anxious And Tessa, I think you mentioned that when you go to job search your first time, you're going to get told no about 400 times, or they may not even say anything. You could just be waiting for months on end for answers from companies that are never going to come. And that's something that you cannot control. You know, I was able to control how many resumes I sent out, how many applications, what have you. But you can't control when people are going to get back to you. So I think the one thing I would have liked to go back and tell myself is to relax a little bit. You're working as hard as you possibly can, but you're putting yourself through way too much undue emotional stress for things that you have no control over. Trust in yourself. If you truly believe in yourself and your ability, which the number one thing that I always lean on with myself is problem solving. I should have believed in myself a little bit more, because it would have kept me from a few sleepless nights of worrying, when am I going to get a job? Oh my God, I've been living at my parents' house for 5 months. How do I tell them that I just need a few more days to lock something down? Relax, it will all work out. And if you're putting yourself out there, and if you're doing it for the right reasons and you truly believe in yourself, things will work out. Keep going. It can seem like a long and daunting road, but every once in a while, take a step back and don't feel bad about taking one night off here or there. It's not worth getting yourself worked into a tizzy over. Just keep going, and I promise it'll work out in the end. And one day you'll look back and realize that, you know, you should never have been worried at all.
Well said, my friend. Thank you.
I think for me, like something that I guess I would tell myself when I was like, you know, in school is ask for feedback. So like feedback is really hard to accept. You know, I've been you know, in the workforce for many years, and it's hard. It's you know, there's somebody telling you what you did wrong or what you're not doing right, or, you know, different things. And I remember in school, like if I got an A on something, I'd be like, yes, like Donna, Sarah, she gave me an A. She likes me. Like, this is great. But then if I had another professor, who I'm not going to name anybody here, but if they gave me like a lower grade, I just take it home and be like, man, I sucked today. You know, but in hindsight, I should have been like, why did I get that low grade? Like, what did I do wrong? You know, so I think that's something that's really important. Like, go and ask for it. It is going to make you really uncomfortable. And like, it does put you in that vulnerable state, like Shelby was talking about. But like, it's important because that's something that I see as a recruiter is that's a skill that people don't have, especially with the new generation coming up. They don't have that skill of accepting feedback. They don't want the feedback, they'll shut down, and then they'll just go find a new job or quit or do something. And it's tough. Like, I just got tough feedback like 3 months ago, and it was not a good day. But then I came home and I sat down and I was like, okay, like it's hard, but what can you learn from it? And now it's made me, even in 3 months, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that wasn't a big deal at all, but it's getting in your own head. So I think just feedback in general, asking for it, you know, and then learning from it. So.
Excellent. Very good. Anyone else? Davin?
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick, if I could contribute one thing, this is what I wanted to contribute to you all. When you are going throughout all your classes in your career, I feel like, for me, don't put all your eggs in one basket and think, like, for example, in my mind, the whole time I was in college, I was in one class, I think it was news writing class, and I was like, I don't need this. I'm not going to ever cover municipal meetings or anything like that. I said, I'm going to school to become a, you know, magazine editor. And I was like, psh, F that. And so what am I doing, or what did I start? I started covering meetings. So stay as open as you can be. Don't be so set on that one aspect that you don't listen to other teachers or other things you think you might not be interested in, because that might be the way you want to go. So just don't waste your educational career by putting all your eggs in one basket. Explore. That's what I have to say.
Definitely explore and keep an open mind. It'll serve you well. Anyone else? Tessa?
I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet. Just, it's worth it. It's all worth it. I feel like everyone has some kind of struggle in their life, and especially getting your way into the workforce world. So just keep pushing and keep going.
Great. That's great advice. I think everybody here can probably point to times in their life where they just need to keep moving forward and, put it behind you. And we all have to do, and that very appropriate right now, at the end of the 2-year period we're in. As Donna mentioned earlier, things are going to get better. And now it's time to put these things behind us and move forward and do positive things for ourselves and others. Any of the other panelists have anything they want to share before we're at 6 o'clock now, so it's just about time to wrap this up.
Yeah, one last thing. I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. Well, it's very good to push and do your absolute best. Remember to enjoy the work that you're doing, because there gets a point when you're gonna face burnout. I think John can attest to this. I think I did way too much while I was at NCC. I very much burnt out, went to Temple University, burned out even harder. But I do think it's very important to enjoy the work that you're doing, because if you're not enjoying the work, what's the point of being in the field that we are in? So
absolutely.
Great.
That's my 2 cents.
Will, you're going on, you just had some good news, right? You're going to continue your studies?
Yeah, I'm starting my master's in the fall. I'm going into data analytics and visualization at the Maryland Institute College of Art.
Excellent.
Wow. Awesome.
Awesome. Good for you.
Hey, I wonder if Beth's mic is working yet. No?
Doesn't seem that way.
Sorry, Beth.
I'm surprised nobody said about going back and tell their college age self something that they knew now. Nobody mentioned buying Amazon stock. No, I mean, maybe my age is showing, but that would have been my number one bit of advice to my college self. Amazon, Apple, Facebook, call it a day. Well, we're at the end of our hour. I think it was a great hour, and it was wonderful, just wonderful to hear the success stories of our graduates. And for some of you who are here to hear what they have to say, I hope you consider communication studies major. It's offered at the main campus, Monroe campus. We have a variety of formats we offer our classes in, and a great faculty that are utterly committed to the success of our students. And I honestly don't believe you can make a better choice than starting your first 2 years of the communication program at NCC. Wouldn't you agree, Donna, John, Jen?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure our panelists agree as well, or they wouldn't be here with us tonight.
I just want to thank our panelists for taking the time and sharing this amazing advice and your stories and your successes. And this has really, it's been such a full hour. I can't believe where the time went.
Time passes fast when you're having a good time. Thank you, everyone, to Donna and my colleagues, and Jamie and Tessa and Garrett and Will and Deb and everyone. Tessa, did I say your name twice? I'm gonna have to work you into a new question. Shelby and Beth, thank you. Thank you for taking the time and coming back to share these stories and encourage new students to follow their own path, but follow it through the Comm Studies program.
And the faculty can hang around for a minute and just get some larger windows, perhaps, of each other with our panelists. That would be fun.